All right, here we go on this concept exam review. We're on question 1, lines of best fit. Which graph best shows the trend line for the following data? The key here is we're doing a trend line, okay? And if you guys, a lot of you guys did this well. If you remember your trend line stuff, you basically, when you draw a trend line, you want about half the data, if you can, about half the data to be below the line, about half the data to be above the line. So A is a bad one. Got everything above the line. B is a bad one. We got everything below the line. D is bad, and we got everything below the line. The only answer that makes sense at all here is C, where we've got about half the data above the line and about half the data below the line. Notice some of it's on the line. That's good. The more we can get on the line, that's good too. So C is the best answer choice for this question. Any questions on number 1? Concept 9, writing equations of lines. This first one just asks us to find the slope and the y-intercept. And they gave us an equation of line in slope-intercept form. So what we should do is we should say the slope is 6/5, and the y-intercept, which we usually call b, is what? -4? We're done. We told them the slope, we told them the y-intercept. The slope is 6/5, it's right there. And the y-intercept is -4, it's right there. This is in the form y equals mx plus b. So we just look in front of the x to find the slope. We look after the x to find the intercept. Slope-intercept form. Number 3 is a little more difficult because what they've done here is they've given us a line that's in standard form. Okay, and lines in standard form, you can find their slope too. You just have to know the rule. First of all, let's write what standard form looks like. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. That's standard form. There's a number and then an x plus, usually, a number and then a y equals another number. The slope in standard form is always the opposite of whatever the a value is divided by whatever the b value is. This equation, though, notice how I've got 18, 10, and 60. I'd like to knock those numbers down. What goes into 18, 10, and 60? So I don't think 6 goes into 10. How about maybe 2? Let's divide both sides by 2 and see what we get. So we got 9x plus 5y equals what, 30? I can't knock that down any further because there's nothing that goes into 9 and into 5. But I should be able to look at this now and say the slope is the opposite of a. The opposite of a is -9 divided by whatever b is. B is positive 5. Make sure you take the sign here with the b value. So this whole thing right here is the b value. So I've got -9, the opposite of 9, over positive 5. So my slope is -9/5. My slope is done. Now I have to find the intercept. The intercept is a point where x is 0. So if x is 0, this whole chunk would 0 out. So 5 times y would equal 30. What would y have to be for that to be true? 5 times what is 30? 6. So b would have to be 6. And now we're done with number 3. So standard form is a little more difficult than slope-intercept on a question like this. But if you know what you're doing, in fact, you know this little information right here, standard form, slope is opposite of a or b, and that the y-intercept is always going to be the point when x is 0, you get the y-intercept b, just plug 0 in for x and solve for y, you're good to go. Any questions on number 3? All right, number 4 asks us to go the other direction. They give us a slope and an intercept, and they want the equation of the line just want the equation of line. So let's write it in slope-intercept form. Let's just say y equals m, which is 1, times x plus b. Well, b is -7, so I'm going to write a -7. I don't have to write the 1, but since I did, I'll just leave it there. Y equals 1x plus 7. I could just say y equals x plus 7, which is a little bit more of a simplified form. So either one of these would be a great answer for number 4. It's kind of like doing number 2 backwards. 4 and 2 are kind of the same question, just the other direction. One gives you the equation, one's the slope and the intercept. One gives you the slope and the intercept, and one's the equation. So a lot of math, we do both directions. Any questions on number 4? 5 wants us to write the slope-intercept form, which is, we should have that down, y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept form, the equation of the line that's graphed. Notice they've kind of identified 2 points here for us. One of those points is the intercept. Where's the intercept? Actually, that's not the intercept. The intercept is the y-intercept. They haven't identified that at all. Where's the y-intercept? Can you guys see it? It's at -1. It's down here. It's where the graph goes through the y-axis. It goes through the y-axis right there at -1. So just by looking at the graph, I can tell that my b value is -1. What else do I need to write the slope-intercept form? The slope. To find the slope, I'm probably going to need to look at rise over run. So if we start at this point they gave us and rise to here and then run to the other point, let's see how far we went. We went up 2 and we went right 2. So my slope is rise over run. I just went 2 over 2, which is how much? 1. So if I write my equation, I have y equals 1x minus 1. That's my y-intercept. I could write y equals x minus 1. And I'd be done. So in this problem, we're just trying to figure out the equation from the graph. So they're basically saying, can I find a slope? Can I find an intercept from the graph? And then plug it in. Any questions on number 5? All right, concept 10, we're dealing with this parallel and perpendicular line stuff. All concept number 6 wants to know is, are the lines parallel? This is a yes or no question. To determine if they're parallel, I need to be able to identify slopes. So what's the slope of this first line? -3/2. It's that number in front of x. We're in y equals mx plus b form, so it's -3/2. The slope of this one's a little more difficult because we're in that standard form. Remember, when you're in standard form, you take the opposite of the a value. Here's a, here's b. Take the opposite of the a value. Well, a is -6. The opposite of that would be +6 divided by the b value, which is -4. Let's reduce that. 6 divided by -4, wouldn't that reduce to -3/2? Take a 2 out of the 6, you get a 3. Take a 2 out of the 4, you get a 2. Positive divided by a negative is still a negative. So I've got -3/2 for the first one. I've got -3/2 for the second one. When that happens, the lines are parallel. When they have the same slope, they're parallel. Same slope, different y-intercepts. So we're going to say yes. Those lines are parallel. Let's go on to number 7. Same question. Are the graphs of the lines parallel? Well, if you can't tell and you got lots of time, just graph the lines. See if they're parallel. But this is the faster way. Just look at the slopes. So let's look at this this first one right here. What's the slope here? Anybody? 4? Sure. And the second one, we got to use the standard form. So this is A, this is B. The opposite of A, the opposite of -14 is +14. Divided by the B value is 2. That comes out to 7. 4 doesn't equal 7. Those are not parallel, so we're going to say no. And that's all there is to 6 and 7. We'll pause right here. Number 8 says, write an equation that is parallel to the given line and passes through the given point. So, if it's parallel to this line, what has to be true about the slopes of the parallel lines? They are the same. They're the same. What's the slope of this line? 3. They just gave me a slope in this line, and they gave me a point. What's the easiest equation to write if I have a slope and a point? Point slope. They didn't say what form I had to use, so I'm going to pick the easy one because I'm lazy and I know a little bit of math and it allows me to be lazy sometimes. So point slope is y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. If I do it this way, I have less work to do. All I got to do is plug these 3 things in the right place, and I'm done. So let's plug them in. Y minus y1, that's y minus a -16. Minus a negative means plus. So I got y plus 16 equals the slope is 3 times x minus a -3. Minus a negative means plus. We can stop right there. They didn't ask it for in a specific form. They just said write an equation of a line, and we did that, so we're done. Number 9, we just have to determine if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So let's take a look here. What's the slope of the first line? Anybody? 5/4. Let's see if we can get the slope of the second line. I need the opposite of A, so that would be -8, over whatever B is, and that's 10. Let's reduce that. That's -4/5. Now we compare these slopes. I've got 5/4, and I've got -4/5. Notice one's positive, one's negative, and they're flipped over. 5/4 is flipped over from 4/5 and vice versa. When that happens, we have what are called opposite reciprocals. Opposite means one's positive, one's negative. Reciprocals means that one's flipped over, basically. So that's perpendicular. When you get slopes that are opposite reciprocals, they're perpendicular. When you get slopes that are equal, they're parallel. When you get slopes like on a problem up above, what do we have, 4 and 7? They're not equal. They're not opposite reciprocals. Those would be a neither. And that's number 9. Number 10, we're finding a solution to the system of equations. In other words, which point works in both? I like a method called elimination. See how we have a negative x and a negative x right here? I know that if I stack these up like they already are and then subtract them, I know that negative x minus negative x will zero out. Agreed? I can do that to every column here. So negative x minus negative x zeroes out. 4y minus 3y is just 1y. Equals, bring that equals straight down, and then 4 minus 4 is 0. I just found out that the point I'm looking for has a y value of 0. I'm going to take that y value of 0 and put it into one of the equations. I'm going to put it in this one. So I've got negative x plus 4 times 0 equals 4. 4 times 0 is 0, so negative x equals 4. Therefore, x equals negative 4. I just found the point. The x part is negative 4. The y part is 0. Let's check it in the other equation. Negative negative 4 plus 3 times 0, does that equal 4? Yeah, it does. It checks, so this answer has to be right, and it can't be wrong. Let's look at number 11. Number 11, we're still finding a solution, find a point that works in both equations. Notice how y equals negative x plus 9 and y equals 3x minus 3? If y equals both of these things, the negative x plus 9 and the 3x minus 3, what has to be true about negative x plus 9 and 3x minus 3? If they both equal y, then what else is true? If both these things equal y, then they have to be equal to each other. Like if y was 10 in both cases, then 3x minus 3 would be 10, and negative x plus 9 would be 10. In other words, they're the same. They have to equal each other. So we can set up this little equation with just x's in it now and solve. Let's add x to both sides. That'll give me a 4x minus 3 equals 9. Add that 3 to both sides. That'll give me a 4x equals 12. Now if I divide by 4, I've got x solved for. X turns out to be 3. I'm going to take that 3, put it back into one of these equations for the x to find out what y is. If I put it in the first equation, it tells me negative 3 plus 9 is the same as y. Well, I know that negative 3 plus 9 is 6. So now I know that y is 6. So I just found the point 3 comma 6. Let's check that in the other equation. Is 3 times 3, which is 9, minus 3 equal to 6? Yeah, 9 minus 3 is 6. So that equation works, or that point works, it can't be wrong. Set up number 12 for me. How would we get started? I've got y equals 4x plus 7 and y equals 3x. How would we get started? 4x plus 7 equals 3x? Great start. Let's subtract 3x from both sides. That gives me x plus 7 equals nothing, equals 0. Subtract the 7. X is negative 7. I know what x is. Let's put that x right in there. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. That just told me y is negative 21. So I found the point negative 7 comma negative 21. Let's check that in this other one. So if I put a negative 7 in here, 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. Plus 7 is negative 21. That equals what it's supposed to, the negative 21. So we're good. Clear up some space here and work on number 13. Who can get us set up on number 13? A good way to start here. I've got y equals 3x minus 5 and y equals 4x minus 2. 3x minus 5 equals 4x minus 2. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. That gives me negative 5 equals x minus 2. Add the 2 to both sides. And I found out that negative 3 is the same as x. I'm going to take that negative 3 and put it in here. So y is the same as 3 times negative 3 minus 5. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9 minus 5. Y is the same as negative 14. So I think I have the point negative 3, negative 14. Let's check that. Put in the negative 3 right here. I got 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Minus 2 is negative 14. That's what y is supposed to be. That is right. It can't be wrong. All right, we've got this word problem. Let's get solved through. It says Mike and Kim invest $15,000 in equipment to print yearbooks for schools. Each yearbook costs $5 to print and sells for $30. How many yearbooks must they sell before their business breaks even? So let's see what we've got here. We know we invested $15,000. It costs $5 to print and $30 to sell. What's their profit for each yearbook? Is it 25 or 35? It costs. Is cost money coming in or money going out? It's going out, right? So I'm paying that. Sells, they sell for 30. Is that money coming in or money going out? In. So what's the net amount coming in per $25? So I'm going to make $25 for each yearbook. If I let X equal the number of yearbooks, there's my equation. I want to know when this breaks even. So I just take 15,000 equals 25x. I'm going to divide both sides by 25. I get 600. So I need to sell 600 yearbooks to break even. So hopefully it's a big school.